All right, Don, we are recording. What are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, we're getting a lot of questions and confusion about what a timing box is and what a MiniNuke is. And so we'll cover some of that there. But what I wanted to highlight is I went down to the new location and we've got 100 boxes set up. We've got 300 or 400 queen cells on, which is this good early take. And next week we'll be setting another 400. So hopefully we'll have in 3 weeks queens starting to hatch if the cold weather don't get it. All right, now we'll talk about people coming up now that want to make queens. So the question, I guess, was someone said timing box was four places divided. That is a queen castle. That box basically is designed for people that have plastic foundation. They have queen cells and they can drop one in each section. That way you have a queen goes out on each direction, comes back. Now, I'll have to do a video. I've done some punching of queen cell protectors with number 8 hardware cloth. And I drilled a hole in a piece of oak and a broomstick, and you cut a 2-inch square and you drive it through there and you get a nice little formed queen cell protector. It's just a cheap way of protecting your queen cell. You basically just push those in the comb and it'll protect all the queen cells. Now those, you can, once they hatch out, you can either put them in a cage or just let them walk in to a MiniNuke or a 5-frame box. Now going to the MiniNuke, that is basically 4 frames. It's a medium 6 1/4, basically cut in half. So you've got 4 of those frames, basically 1 cubic foot. So you put the queen cell in there, a couple of bees, and it's strictly for mating queens. Now the 5-frame standard box is run as a honey box or a nuke to sell. You can produce honey on it. So I guess a lot of people are just plain confused about the different videos, and I'm glad to see people put a few videos up trying to explain that. So if you got questions on that, now's the time to ask them so we can kind of clarify that.
Get those hands up if you have a question, people. Nobody?
There's no questions about queen rearing. We're going to have an early spring, so there are going to be swarms coming in early. So now's the time to start thinking about making those splits. And whatever amount of hives you got, figure 4 to 6 hives that you need to build to have replacements to expand. Because if you're not there, don't have that stuff ready, you're going to lose your bees. They're going to swarm on you. And watch for queen cells. Now, if you're checking hives, wait till you got 55 degrees and above if you're going in them.
Okay, Patricia has a question.
Hi, hi, everybody. Good evening. Could you explain a little more detail about a timing box, what you're calling that, and what it?
Okay, good. The timing box, basically, I've got 3 sections in it. So I've got 3 frames in the center, and that's where I start the queen at on brood. Now you got 2 frames or 3 frames on each side if you're using a 10-frame box. And the whole idea of is if you're going to graft 1 or 10 or 100, or even if you want to graft 1,000 queens, you don't want them coming out all different times. So you want them to try to come out basically within an hour. But if you can get them to come in 5 to 6 hours, that is ideal. So what you want to do is take a frame out of the center, because you've got 2 vertical queen excluders that holds the queen there. Then the bees can pass through the queen excluder to the left or the right of it. You take 1 frame out of the middle, you put it to one side, take that frame and replace it to the middle, put a thumbtack on it. You do that on Sunday. Come back on Thursday and reverse it. Take that one out and reverse the outside and put it to the middle. Now, all that larvae that's on that frame is going to be exactly the same time. You're going to have a 3-day larva. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, that's very helpful.
To do more of a video on it. I forgot to take my little camera down. We had 500 cells on bars sitting on the table down there for grafting. So This is the new house I bought, and we got it set up basically for queens and producing that. We got 12 cell builders behind the house. We're going to start really rolling queens out. And as soon as the weather breaks down there more, I'll start posting on Facebook dates and times. If you're a new beekeeper that hasn't, it's not one of my students, we'll set a date up on the weekend, Friday or Saturday, and you come down and you can spend a day doing queens. And setting queen cells, you'll be making queen cells, and you'll be making them the old-fashioned way. You know, my son uses the plastic pushing JBZ cups. I'm using wax. We make our stuff. So the technique of grafting in a plastic cell is a little different than you are in the plastic or the wax. And we'll show you how to set them up on some drawed comb. We're going to set basically foundation in a hive, put a queen cell in there and a couple of bees, and show you how to draw them out and how to feed them. So it's basically like I'm doing here, but it's hands-on.
That good, Pat? I think she froze up. Okay. And over to Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns.
Go ahead, Greg.
So my wife's been catching up on all these fat bee man chats. And so she's cracking the whip on me pretty hard. And she keeps asking me, do you have your sugar lined up? Do you have your boxes lined up? And she's doing a real good job of keeping us in a good spot to project how many nukes that we'll be able to sell, how many queens we'll be able to ship. And so the timing is always so iffy up here. And I've got a question for you regarding your new south yard there.
Right.
When you're getting your queens and everything established this early down there, do you find better luck in queen castles or your mini mating nukes, or are you just using 5-frame boxes down there?
We're using, well, my son is running MiniNukes. I'm running a medium, full size, or medium, full length mediums down there to do mine, because I'm going to have students down there. You're basically going to walk into a high production queen rearing type situation where you're doing, up here, you're doing basically beekeepers that don't have a lot of hives. You're cutting cells and going from that step to maybe grafting a little bit. Down there, you're going to set out a couple hundred cells on a couple hundred boxes, you know, before lunch. So it's just a little bit different technique we're going to do down there.
Do you find that
students that have been here to try to come down, there's camping available there. Just bring you a tent or your RV and park it down there. And if you make mistakes, you're not hurting nothing. We're running 400 or 500 cells on a take down there, so we're going to have plenty of extra cells.
There's definitely always something to learn. I feel like I've started to get pretty intimately aware of your yard in Lula there, so looking forward to seeing your new yard and how you set up a new place there. When it's early in the year, do you feel like you've got better luck making splits from some of those forced early queen cells than grafting when the temperature's still so cool?
Well, it's been kind of cool down there. And so what we're doing is going out there. We took, there's 12 hives that are starters behind the house down there. And 5 of them, we pulled a queen out and actually went to one of Stephen's yards down there. We shook out about 4 pounds of bees in several packages. And we actually made some splits with those laying queens because we wanted those hives basically queenless. Then we set a cell. My son's down there setting cells yesterday. So he's putting 90 queen cells in each box. So that way we can just, we could drop those in and get them going. Up here, I'm trying to show people how to set a queen cell on draw it out comb. Basically down there, when you're doing the high end of it, we're taking MiniNukes with just foundation in there. We're dropping the queen cell between them, and we're dumping a cup or a cup and a half of bees in there, and we're closing the entrance up, and we're putting a feeder on top, or we're using inside feeders. Down there, it's a little bit different. We're using a lot of inside feeders down there. Up here, we're still using Powerade bottles because the students are slow, so they're learning. So there's a lot of little tricks for doing everything.
Sounds good.
Down there, you don't need no foundation that's drawn out. We're just
Okay.
putting brand new foundation in there, and we're cutting the cells and putting them in there. See, what we're doing is we're painting the bar, and we're building up that bar to set the cells on. Then we're putting 15 cells on each of them bars. And we're putting 3 bars on a frame, dropping them in the boxes there. Now, most people haven't seen start to finish. Down there, when I get people coming down there, you're going to see them being grafted. You're going to see the incubator where as soon as they're sealed, we throw them in the incubator. Now, we got 2 style incubators. We got the chicken incubator. We got an old refrigerator down there. We can do 800 or 900 in at a time. So we're really getting more to that higher production. So we're trying to turn out by 1st of April between 2,000 and 5,000 queens a week. Our demand is so high, our students can't keep up with the demand as it is. So we put a couple extra people down there to help us. So it's just more of a commercial operation now.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to checking that out and seeing how early we can push getting queens made and good mated queens and get those Ohio Fat Bee-Man bees sold out in nukes and queens. So looking forward to stopping down soon and checking that out. Thanks, Don.
And if you let Stephen know or let me know in advance, let me know exactly when you're coming.
Okay.
We'll try to have extra queens coming out, or, you know, you might want to buy some virgin queens.
Right.
And then let them mate in your yard. Now,
Yep.
The main thing is, do you have the drones? See,
Yeah,
we
not
set out about 30 pieces of green comb just to build up more drones down there.
Like, we got to get past 30 degrees still here, but I'm getting a little antsy. So,
Well, you're not the only ones antsy. I mean, I went down there and it was running 49, 55 degrees, and we're out there doing splits and shaking bees. So
yeah.
we're trying to get our first coming off here next week, the first grafts coming off.
Appreciate it, Don. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, over to Virgil and Thunder. Hang on, get on mute. There you go. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to figure out, we want to get our queens going, maybe buy some this year, but is it better to get them in the mini mating nukes, start them off there, Don? Will they build up quicker than if we put them in to like our 5-frame nukes?
Well,
Make them a little stronger?
you've got a temperature problem up there, and you know, if you're below 55, you're going to get chilled brood there unless you've got an awful lot of brood. Until April comes, or even late March, if you've got good warm weather, I don't think you're going to gain much time. In long run, you'd probably be a whole lot better just to buy some mated queens to make splits with. You got to remember, Easter is going to be your key point, and I've talked about it on previous chats. One year, I guess it was 4 or 5 years ago, we had that record Easter freeze, and we had 3 to 4 weeks of nice weather. And I got real antsy. I got to get going, so I made 75 splits, you know, and I'm the first one to admit I lost them all because being antsy. So that's what you have to think about. Don't gamble more than you want to lose.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're not going to push our luck as far as with the weather, but I mean, once we're confident that it's going to stay that temperature, will they build up quicker in a mini mating nuke than they will in a 5-frame? Will they be stronger?
Well, we are setting packages basically in a 5-frame standard deep. We're setting them that way so they build fast rather than just dumping them in an 8 or a 10. So people that's already experimented with that, they see the difference. Now, as far as building up in a mini nuke, you basically got 1 cubic foot there. Unless you keep your eye on them and you can keep enough bees in that box, I don't see an advantage to it.
Okay.
Mini nukes, basically 95% are basically set up just for mating a queen. Drop a cell in, get the queen mated, and that way, if you do lose the bees, they don't come back, you lost a cup of bees. So
All right. So just strictly for ourselves, we can use them just to drop
if
them
you're
in
going
there.
to stay there and stay on top of them, see the drawback of that, you don't use many bees for them, but the biggest drawback is if there's a honey flow, don't take them long, they swarm, or you're going to get swarm cells, or they starve. They're such borderline, they're so critical because they're small. My son experimented around with those mini nukes and built supers for them. which going to buy a little time, but not much. That little, if you got a pound or a pound and a half of bees in a mini, they'll fill that box up in about 3 days.
Okay.
You know, so that's something to think about.
Yeah. Well, we want to get them built up this year and make as many splits as we can. I just didn't know if it would be to an advantage to build them up quicker in those small ones and then switch them to the 5 frame, or if it would slow them down, putting less bees in the 5 frame, if it would take them longer to build up.
If I lived where you live, what I would basically do is use a medium with a 19-inch frame. That way you got 5 frames there.
Okay.
That way you have more bees in there. And then once they build a little bit, you pull 4 out and make 4 splits about 7 days later. That's the big advantage of that. That's the thing about teaching commercial beekeeping. You have a lot of people at different levels, and then one person is asking a more of a beginner type question. The next one is kind of an intermediate, and then you got the guy that comes in that's more advanced. He's not used to making less than 500 queens a day. And then you can't sit next to a person that's doing 1 or 2 queens. So
in other words, I need to stay away from Greg Burns.
If you're not growing, you're dying. Let me tell you that. You got to be growing.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, over to Eric and Victor. Go ahead, guys.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
Good evening. Hey, back on the with the queen rearing and your cells in the incubator.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't done that yet. We're going to learn, but is there anything you need to know as far as, you know, like chicken eggs, you got to worry about the humidity and different things like that?
Well,
in those incubators, is that that's something we got to worry about? Or
we're doing one, the one we got first Stevens using that come from Tractor Supply. It's got a digital thermostat in there. It's got a little pan in there for putting water in to keep the humidity in there. It's all pretty much electronic. Now, the other one is old style Beekeepers years and years ago. It's an old refrigerator with 2 60-watt bulbs in it and a heat sensor or a thermostat. It's set. And then we've got a digital readout inside a vertical little thermometer just to keep the temperature. And once you get it set, it's good. And the reason you run 2 60-watt bulbs is because if you've got 1,000 cells in there and one bulb burns out, you know, one bulb will keep it warm, but during the night, if one burns out, the other one takes over. They both actually come out at the same time, but the thermostat maintains temperature. So if that helps you any.
now our incubator has one of those fans in it. Is that?
Yeah. The small one does, but the big one, that's a refrigerator. I mean, it's got capability of 5,000 cells.
Okay. And the other question, as far as when you start looking at when you're going to be able to sell your overwintered nukes, roughly, I mean, everything's just a ballpark figure, but how soon after you start seeing the red pollen from the maples and the dandelion, the yellow coming in, do you start getting into these boxes, you know, checking them out and stuff? We're pretty cool up here yet, but when do you start, you know, cleaning that newspaper off, getting the sugar off the top of these boxes and stuff?
Well, as far as time to sell those nukes you're talking about, I mean,
yeah, just kind of timing.
Possible. You know, don't sell them too early because you're cutting yourself really short when you sell them too early. Where you're at up there, right. I wouldn't let any go out of there. If you're getting desperate for money, you know, the end of March, yeah, I would sell some, but I would hold off in your area to at least into April. But, you know, there's people going to sell them in mid-March, but that one that you sell in mid-March, you could have sold it 3 more times if you'd have waited just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, over to Robbie. Go ahead, Robbie.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. I'm on my new tablet. I was looking at my beehive today. They collapsed. I checked the hive. It's because of the moisture. I got honey. So the moisture build up. I don't know why. I have a vent hole, so I don't know what happened.
Are you running an inner cover?
Nope.
All right. How big is your vent hole?
3/8 hole.
Too small. Minimum inch and an eighth. That would be minimal. And are you got your hives leaning forward?
It's tilted.
Is it tilted at least a half a bubble?
I do not have a
level?
level, which I'm going to buy me a level. Hold on. This is the biggest drill bit I have, 1/2 of an inch.
Well, if you don't have a level, the easiest way to get the right fall is take your glass out there, a drinking glass, and fill it up. Then lift the hive up until you got a 1/2 inch on one end of the back side of that glass. That's going to give you some fall. Okay?
Say that again?
Do what?
Okay, say that again.
Take a glass of water and fill it up, set it on top of your beehive, and then lift it back up till the water comes out of the cup or the glass in the front. When you see a 1/2 inch in the back of the cup or the glass, then you've got enough fall.
Okay.
That's the poor man's way of leveling things.
Okay, thank you.
All right. It's all common sense.
Oh, over to Linda. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, I want to know, I've been converting some boxes into swarm traps, and how early should I get those traps out, do you think?
Well, right now we're having an early spring and everything. Right now, there's cells. I've had a lot of people saying they've already got cells. The main thing is if you're in your hive, check, see if you've got any drones. Make sure you got drones, because if they're your own bees, you want to try to keep them.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of bees around here, and I know they're mine that have left me. I'm trying to catch them back.
Well, you can catch them back. Set you some swarm traps up. You know, you can bait them or you don't have to bait them. I've had just empty boxes with empty frames sitting there ready to use, and I've had swarms land on them and just walk them in.
Okay, so you think get them out there now?
It ain't going to hurt.
Okay.
Better that sooner than later.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, over to Raina. Go ahead, Raina.
Hey, just wanted to share the weather here in Houston area. We've had really warm weather lately, and today I went to the bee yard. It was mid to high 60s. I saw some drone cells. They were bringing in pollen. I've seen, it looks like clover, but it has yellow flowers. I think it's like lemon clover.
It might be dandelions.
It's actually those, 3-leaf little shrubs, I guess. But is there any, I guess, nutrition value for bees in those? It looks like it's clover, but it has yellow flowers.
Well, I can't say if it's got nutritional value to it, but I would sit out there by the hive if they're bringing pollen in. The bees think it's got worth hauling.
Okay, yeah, they are bringing pollen, so.
Because they're not going to haul nothing. Now, if there's things are bad, I've seen them in my sawdust pile, but they're not getting pollen. They're usually just getting sap and hauling it back.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, yeah, just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Okay, over to Justin. Go ahead, Justin.
Hey, Don, back to cell builders. Do you have to set those away from hives? I'm going to do some queens this year, and I've got about 28 hives, some that I use for honey, some that I use for splits and growing numbers. So I was curious, do I need to set those cell builders off a distance from the other hives?
Well, if you got, you can have as many as you want in the yard, but if you got a cell builder, are you going to run a queen right or queenless?
Queenless.
Then I would run a reducer in there, reduce it down. I would prefer to see a traffic jam at the entrance. That way they're not going to get in there robbing. But if it's too wide, they will get in there, because if there's no queen or a queen cell, the bees will get in there and kind of rob it out. And if you got, you know, strong hives there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, nobody else has their hands up. I thought I seen some earlier. Somebody must have gotten shy.
They get shy here. Brandon's sitting at the edge of his seat. He's got a question. I can tell.
All right, I guess. All right, hey, what's up?
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I guess I have a question. I have a hive that it's the only, I realize now that it's the only hive that's ever attacked me. And right now, if I open up the lid, you can do everything perfect. And I can go through all the other hives and it'll be fine. I open up the lid to this one, and each time I've done it, they've immediately, all of them, tried to get me. I know I need to requeen them, but you guys.
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I wouldn't try to do a whole lot with a hive right now. If you got another hive and you're making queen cells, I wouldn't make any kind of changes. You've got a ripe cell that's ready to hatch. And then what I would do is take 2 frames of bees with that queen and put it in a nuke and set it off in another part of the yard, and then put a queen cell in it and let that hive go that way. Sometimes just by the fact that you move them and give them new foundation, sometimes that straightens them out. But then there's always that chance that you've got some bad genetics in it. It's hard to say without looking.
Got you. So should we be doing mite treatments if there's a warm day? Oxalic acid?
Well, it ain't going to hurt. I mean, if it's 55 degrees, you got bees flying. You can do it in January. You got bees flying. Mm-hmm. I've done it at 50 degrees, but I like to say 55 is you're safer when the bees are flying. You definitely don't want to break up a cluster, you know, at 40 or 35 degrees.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to go out there tomorrow then. I guess I'll do that to that hive and check out the individual.
Yeah, that's another thing. If a hive gets a lot of mites or a lot of beetles in it, they'll get a little aggressive.
Okay. Could be that.
Yeah.
I just need to get in there. It's just been so cold. I just lost 2 hives from it. Just dropped down to like 17 degrees at night.
Well, I don't think you lost them from the cold.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking it was probably something to do with beetles or ants or mites.
Well, the ants, they're not going to be in the hive bothering anything. You might have mites or you might have beetles in there. And it's a little early for beetles to start running bees out, you know, I personally think.
I bet it was mites.
How often do you treat, or when's the last time you treated?
I treated last month.
Yeah.
Yeah. I treated last month. It's been too cold to get in there.
Well, you know, if you see bees flying, I would treat them.
All right.
You know,
tomorrow.
I don't think you can over-treat the hive, but you can definitely under-treat it.
Right. Yeah.
And if you haven't treated it really good in November, October, November, December, I mean, you're going to carry a lot of mites through.
That's when I started treating. That's when I first got my oxalic acid vaporizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully I did it enough. I'm just hoping.
Are you running singles through the winter, or are you trying to run doubles?
Singles.
Singles?
Yeah.
Probably do a lot better.
Yeah,
when it gets nice and warm, what I do is go in the hive. If you don't have bees covering all the frame, then I'd put them in a 5-frame nuke. They'll build up a lot faster.
Okay. I can do that to that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That helps a lot.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, over to Greg. Go ahead, Greg.
Don, we first started making our syrup. We started off with 5-pound bags, and then 10-pound bags, and then 25-pound bags. And then we eventually started making them in 50-gallon drums, and then started using those big metal drums of sugar. And I think my wife and I both are on the same page to where the time that it takes to even do that is just, it's not really to any extra benefit. So we're really considering completely switching over to totes of fructose. I know firsthand, I've been learning from you for a few years now, and I've seen quite a difference in how well your bees do. How I mean, for lack of better words, they're fat, happy, and extremely prolific, and there's lots of them all the time. Have you seen a difference in performance on the different formulas of fructose, and do you have a recommendation currently?
Well, right now we're setting up a lot of boxes. So we're taking the totes that are basic. The last ones we bought is basically a fructose. Is basically a dry sugar. They run it through heat and add enough water to it. It's thick as corn syrup. The disadvantage of that is if it sits a long period of time, it'll start to settle a little bit with the crystals at the bottom. So what we're doing is we're cutting a 50-50 solution, and we're feeding like a quarter of a bucket down there right now, because you don't want to put a lot on there. Now, you're going to have a lot of people do a lot of discussion. I would never feed my bees, and certainly never put corn syrup. Well, hallelujah, I'm going to sell them bees. You know, it's just like every human being. If you don't eat, you're not going to survive. You go on a big diet, you're not going to be very strong. I talk about the simple ways of making comparison. If a man comes with his buddy had steak and eggs, and his wife put him on a diet of bouillon soup, who's going to dig out there in the ditch longest? So everything I try to teach is common sense, you know. And when I tell you something, think about it. If you can't reason it out and it sounds, then don't do it.
Right now, it seems like what's available is like a Formula 55, and there's still some from the 90s around. If I remember, was it the 90 years ago that was causing?
That was the early ones back in the early 80s, okay. 80s, 85, 87. They've changed that formula.
They've knocked the fructose back to 55% or wherever that might be now.
Well, it's got a little different formula to it.
Okay.
But we've gotten both. In fact, I think I've got 2 more totes coming of the 55.
Okay. It's a ridiculously controversial subject to breach when it comes to corn syrup. It seems like no matter which kind of a beekeeper that it is, here on the farm, all of the livestock that we raise for meat, you know, we use non-GMO grain. When it comes to the bees, and when you're considering the fructose corn syrup, I got to admit, I was extremely biased for several years that there was, there was GMOs in the corn syrup that would affect the bees in some way, get into the wax. And it really wasn't until I kind of put those ideals in my back pocket and did some as much unbiased research as to what actually is occurring with the fructose and kind of better understand it at the molecular structure. I wish I would have, had that conversation with myself a couple years ago, because it really is, when you look at how sugar enters our bloodstream and what happens when you have the fructose and the sucralose and the glucose, it's really, it's the biggest misconception, I think, is folks are anti-fructose as well as they're anti-sugar, because they think that as a beekeeper, if you bridge that topic, they automatically think that you're robbing all of your bees honey, starving them, and then giving them nothing but fructose. They don't understand that the reason why we're using it is when we are queen building and getting nukes built, we're using it for fast carbohydrates, so they build as much wax as they can, and then they go out and forage and bring everything else back in. There's a huge gap in information regarding that. So I think it only makes sense to it's just a matter of right now is hauling it. So I've got trailers and such, but I'm guessing that stuff probably weighs about what, 15 pounds a gallon or so?
If you get a tote, it's right at 3,000 pounds.
3,000, okay.
So that's the thing, it's like, if I just backtrack back to 90, 91, when I first started doing YouTube, I was spending too much time arguing small cell bees.
Yeah.
So I just threw my hands up. Do what you want to do. And when you want to learn something, then settle down and I'll teach you the ways. The small cell bee was around a long time before Root and Daydent messed with it and made a larger bee. So, my ways might not be the only way, but if you want to make money, listen, I keep saying the same thing. Listen to 10%. You'll make money. You'll have strong bees. And it's just like people. If you're on a diet, you're not going to gain weight. If you sit around and you overeat, you're going to get fat. Same thing with bees. You fatten them up, they lay like crazy. They can build their numbers up.
And these bees aren't living for 80 years either. They're what, 45 days. Yeah. And even the winter bee, a little bit different nutrition going into there. That's another misconception about it. So I've seen it firsthand in your yard, how prolific is probably the best word that they are. They're way more prolific than any bee that I've ever had, even in my own yard, because they haven't quite had that that diet like you always talk about with your wife's going to feed you or your brother steak or beef bouillon. Which one's going to work harder? It's the proof's in the pudding. So I think we're going to switch.
I was trying to do everything, explain it in the simplest terms. And I had a young guy come today and wanted to take a commercial class. He has no experience. And I didn't want to hurt his feelings, but I tried to explain to him, you come here and you don't know how to ride a tricycle, but now you want to get on a high performance motorcycle and ride it. You can't do it. You got to start at the beginning. So I suggested to him to go to a bee club and learn something there, and then find a mentor and go there, or get into doing a few hives behind your house. Try it on there. You can't push most people into commercial beekeeping because it's totally reversed of everything that they've been taught. Different way of thinking and doing things.
Out of the box thinking for sure. Thanks, Don.
Okay.
Okay, over to Mr. Zirkle. Go ahead, John.
Good evening, everybody.
Good
Hey,
evening.
Greg, if you're coming down my way, I have a 55-gallon barrel of DT 65, which is just a little sweeter than the 55. And I'll cut your break because you're a nice guy.
Oh, he's a sweet guy.
And how about $50 for 720 pounds of the syrup?
You better jump on it. I'll drive up there and get it.
So come down and visit. I got to get out of the garage and get my girl's car back in there. So let me know.
Okay, you got all those frames done yet, John?
I haven't even started the frames yet. I haven't even painted the boxes yet. I'm up to Andrew was over at the house today. He saw I got about 300 and some odd boxes already built. So yeah, I'm probably just going to order a finished frame this year, or I'm going to do a lot of starter strips this year.
Nice.
I was trying to figure out how many frames I'm going to need, and it starts to make me sick to my stomach when I think of how many I have to build. So I'm a one-man band here, so.
Just do a little here, a little there.
That's what I do. 10 hives a day. I can build a hive body in about 8 minutes a piece. So, I put an hour or two every day into it and get a little more done. So, but I overbought boxes this year because I refuse to run out. This year I will not run out of anything. It's very detrimental.
Check back in about 2 months, and I want to hear you tell me that again.
Well, I'm thinking about coming down and visit you here. We're about 2 months away from spring here in Pennsylvania, so I might have a little time, and I'm guessing you guys are pretty much getting into full swing down there.
We're starting to get, because the orders are coming in, and we're going to have to start turning numbers.
Yeah.
Are you making your own rabbits on box, or are you doing box joints?
Well, I was going to build my own this year, but I was able to get a really good deal from Man Lake on some old Brushy Mountain boxes, and they're all box jointed.
Yeah.
But I paid $6 a box, and I can't even buy the wood for that. So I got about $1 in nails. I use 2-inch ring shank nails, so I got about 40 nails a box. So we were figuring today, Andrew, I put in something like 12,000 nails so far. So
get an air gun that shoots them.
That's what I need to do.
Yeah.
But I'm poor, so I got a little time on my hands. So
But you know what? You can buy an air gun, but you can't buy that time. The time that you would drive 4 nails, you could put 3 boxes together.
That's so true.
I bought my air guns many years ago. I stopped driving nails back in probably 76, and I'll never drive another nail unless I'm hanging a picture.
Are you when you use the nails, are you getting like a roll of the nails on the wire?
No, mine are in sticks.
Okay.
I use staples to put my box together, brads to put my wax in, and I use quarter crown staples to put the frames together.
Okay.
I could put 100 frames or 200 frames together in a couple hours.
Wow. Well, what are you doing this weekend?
I'm putting more frames together.
Want to come to Pennsylvania?
If I speak at a bee meeting out there, I'll swing by.
All right. That would be awesome.
No.
Yeah, there's a lot that I need to do to modernize my my assembly process. It's kind of archaic.
Well, I mean, if you're going to make money, you have to, that's the main thing that I'm doing here is people come here, they know how to keep bees and how to open a box. I'm actually showing them how to shave a second here, a second there, and how to work a box more efficiently. It's just like an air gun. It's going to shave so much time off. Okay.
All right. I'm off to Home Depot tomorrow.
There you go. Now, people, I don't know which of yous are building your boxes, but I switched one of my saws over, and what I've done is I've screwed in a piece of wood on the fence. So I set my rabbit or my davy blade to where it cuts 3/4. I take an end piece that's got the rabbits on it, and I time myself. 4.5 seconds to do end piece. You push it one way, turn it about 180 and turn it 180 again. Three pieces or more, 3 sides. You're done. So basically, the thing it takes the longest to reach over and get the air gun and then put them together. I've been building boxes since probably 52, 54, hammer and nails. And when I went to air guns back in the 70s, and even back when I was using every single box, and my students, if they watched me, they can attest to it. I put a square on every single box because you never know when something moves. And when you shoot those staples in, you do the front and the back, and then you still can move that box a little bit. You can bump it one way or the other to square it. And then when you put it in on the sides, it's locked. It ain't going to move. So I thought I'd throw that little tip out that I switched over because we was doing the side cuts, and then we would reset and do the frame rest. Now we're doing it all in one pass. Wham, bam, gone, done. Everything saved time.
Okay. Over to Robbie. Go ahead, Robbie.
Hi. Okay. Yesterday I was planning to buy me a package of bees. I had Italian honeybees. Now I want to switch to Russian. Just to compare Italian bees to Russian. I hear some people say Russians are mean. I just wonder if is that hype or is that true? So I figured I got my Italian bees, get my Russians, see how they behave.
Are you asking me as a person, or are you just going to try it and then let us know?
I'm going to have Russian honeybees and Italian honeybees in my backyard and see how they behave.
Okay.
Well, that was my goal yesterday. Then I found out today my bees are dead.
If
So
they don't run you out, let us know how they're doing.
Okay.
Which
I
one's
will.
do better for you?
Yeah. So, okay. I do have apple trees in my backyard. Not a lot. I haven't seen honeybees on these apple trees in the past.
Well, you
I
got
don't
Russian
know.
bees?
No, Italian.
Well, if you got Russian bees, they want vodka. They don't want apple juice.
We also have peaches too.
Well, you know, the bees, they only pollinate on some of those peaches. They don't need to actually have bees to pollinate peaches.
Mm.
Apple trees, they'll work. Cherry trees, they'll work. Dogwoods, they'll work for the pollen.
Do they do nectar?
On which?
Apple.
Yeah, I guess they get a little bit, but you're not going to make a lot of honey on them because I've pollinated apple orchards. Strawberries, you might get some, and blueberries, you might get a little honey off it.
We do have blueberries. I've never seen honeybees on them. I don't know why. We got about a couple of varieties of blueberries.
Maybe there's other things out there. It's just like when you go in the candy store, you got your favorite things when you pick it out, don't you? Well, the bees, they got favorite things they like.
I like Kit Kat.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff Reland said to try some plum trees.
Yeah, there were plum trees. And Japanese crabapple, they work that good.
Okay. Is that it, Robbie?
For now, yeah.
Okay. All right, over to Justin. Go ahead, Justin.
Hey, Don, I'm in southeast Michigan, the very bottom corner over by Lake Erie, and I was just wondering what your thoughts are on like imitation pollen to build up in the spring. Like, I know we're gonna, well, I shouldn't say I know we're gonna have an early spring, but I'm hoping we're gonna have an early spring, and I'm wondering when I should start temperature-wise, when I should start adding some patties to get them going.
Well, if you're going to add patties, I would only do small amounts. If you're going to feed pollen, we use a bucket, and we cut a hole in the bucket and hang it sideways in a tree.
Mm-hmm.
We try to keep the pollen out of the hive to keep the beetle population down. But if you're going to use a patty, don't use full patties if you're buying pre-made ones. If you buy a pre-made one, make 8 cuts or 10 cuts out of it. You want them to consume it in
Right.
24 to 36 hours.
I make the patties here, but I also have a dry feeder as well. I was thinking being able to get them in there before they start to fly. Is it going to make that big of a difference, or should I just wait if they're not flying?
If they're not flying, they're not going to move.
Oh, gotcha. So even if I put a patty in there, they're not going to get up.
Not unless you got an awful lot of bees and they're going to break the cluster a little bit.
Gotcha. All right, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, over to honey oak. Go ahead, guys.
Honey-oak.
Honey oak, honey oak, whatever.
Hey, just for all the beginners and stuff like that out there, when you do have your, like all our boxes, we got them condensed down into 5 frames for the winter. When you do open them up, what do you typically do, Don, as far as you go add another box on top, or you know, we're going to be making more bees and stuff to sell bees. So what would your typical spring time when you first get into an overwintered box, what do you do?
Well, I want to check first if I got queen cells, because I don't want to do something twice. I open that box up. If it's strong, I'm going to make 2 or 3 splits off it. That's what I'm going to do. When I do go through it, I'm going to check for beetles, mites, and then, you know, if I got queen cells, that could definitely make a split. And if you got plastic, you're going to have to use cell protectors. If you got wood and wax, start cutting cells out and making splits. So personally, I wouldn't open boxes up unless you got other boxes you can start making splits, because why open it up and decide you need to make a split and then go build a box and come back? Too much time lost.
Yeah,
we're efficient.
We've got quite a few boxes ready to go. We've been building ahead like you tell us.
Yeah. Well, you'll find you're going to need them.
Yeah. The other thing we're looking at doing is starting a few out yards and stuff, and running some game out there and do a little bit of honey, just to feed back to the bees or as needed. But so when you open up and bring a box out there, just go ahead and take the 5 frames, set them in the middle of the 8 frame out in those yards, and then just add extra frames to the outside until they fill them, and then add a box on top.
Yeah. If you're going to do for pollinating or make honey, yeah, you do that.
Okay.
Treat at the same time so you don't have to do 2 operations later. See, when you,
all right,
you
that's
have too
all.
many out yards, you have to figure your time. There's a lot of lost time driving from one place to another. You could be doing stuff. And then if you're going to make out yards, I would try to keep a minimum 25 on an out yard. If you're doing anything less than that, you're kind of wasting time.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, got no hands up right now.
Ernest is thinking about one.
He's reading. He's looking at something else. Andrew has a question. Go ahead, Andrew.
Hey, how you doing? It's been a while. So Don, my tinkeritis got the best of me, I think, this winter.
You don't have enough hives, I can tell.
I got 1 hive right now. So being the great beekeeper I am, getting back into it, I fed them pollen this winter. We've had a really, really, really mild winter. So it went from, we've had 3 or 4 60-degree days down into like the 30s, and it's been kind of unstable. But about 2 weeks ago at this point, we had some really warm days, and man, the beehive was buzzing, and there was bees doing like orientation flights, thousands of them. I was getting really excited. Then I kind of the thought kind of came to me. It's like, it's still January, and you know, they're building up. So I lifted up the box, like you said in the last chat I was on, and it felt really, really light. I don't have any emergency feed on them right now, or the sugar cakes. Now we're scheduled to have a couple more days of warm weather. Can I feed them like a thick syrup right now, or should I avoid that completely? I'm not talking like 2-to-1. I'm talking like inverted syrups, some real heavy, thick stuff. Or should I just stick to sugar cakes?
Well, I would make the sugar cakes and, you know, put them on there. It's probably going to be better unless you got honey. If you got some of your own honey, you can spray some honey in them. Just pull a frame out next to your brood, where you got brood or your cluster, and then turn it sideways and take like a honey bear and squirt it into the cells. Just tap it a little bit because they're on an angle, and then set it back in there. If it is a little too much and starts to run, the bees will come up and clean it up, and it'll start, you know, moving it around a little bit.
Yeah.
But if it's really light, it sounds like they're either getting ready to swarm or they're getting on the verge of starving.
I hope they're not swarming. It's going to be like in the 20s or 30s for a while here. I'm up with John, so it's pretty cold.
If you put pollen patties on there, you're stimulating the queen.
Not pollen patties, but I had like dry pollen outside the hive.
Yeah.
And then the really warm days, they were hitting that stuff hard. Like,
well, they use it to start building.
Yeah. Yeah, they're building.
It's like trying to, you know, put your foot on the gas and pull the emergency brake down at the same time. You don't know, you know, what it's going to do.
Yeah. So you think honey but not feed them like the heavy syrup on top?
I think they'd probably do better, you know, if you're using honey, if it's your own honey. But I wouldn't go out and buy somebody else's honey unless you know the beekeeper.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Nobody else. Oh, wait a minute. Ernest is awake now.
Oh, he woke up.
Get unmuted, Ernest. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say something to Andrew there, but the main thing is to feed them. You feed them regardless. You know, if it's 20 degrees out there, you open that lid and throw something in there. It's better to do something than to do nothing. So you gotta get the food on them, and I make up those patties, and I put a little bit of pollen in it. But right now, I think I'm going to start adding a little more pollen to it because I think we're going to have early spring. So
I'm hoping.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
I say I'm hoping for an early spring.
Yeah, it looks like everything is coming along a little earlier. So I still got about another probably 2 to 3 weeks before I need to do that. So I don't, like you said, you get too far ahead, it turns cold, then you're just as bad off as you hadn't did anything. So, so you just gotta be careful. I know last year I fed a lot of pollen, and that wasn't a good idea. Although they love it, you know, you'd love to give it to them, but you know better. So, I don't give a pollen to them till it's time to give it to them. So that's just what I had to say there.
Okay.
So I guess back over to you, Don.
Okay.
Okay, no other hands up right now. Got a lot of quiet people.
Yeah, they're all quiet. Come in here, want to learn something, and really sitting there, don't ask no questions. I can't answer your question, don't answer.
We got Dwayne and Jeff. Reland haven't asked anything yet today. We're going to start calling on people like a school.
Yeah, Dwayne's sitting there with a smile. He's got something he's got to say.
Go ahead, Dwayne.
Well, let me get myself unmuted here.
You're unmuted.
Oh, okay. Me and Greg have just been talking back and forth, trying to plot strategy on getting bulk sugar. We've been having to pay quite a bit for it, or I have been anyway. I know he was asking about that earlier, and when I'd started switching over, I was doing it all with I was literally buying 10-pound bags of sugar and working myself to death, and started doing that like Don does it and feeding it pretty strong and everything, and it worked a lot better for me. The time it saves was just ridiculous.
How much are you paying per pound?
The cheapest I got, I think, was about 38 cents a pound up here.
Well,
most of the people up here, I can't even get them to talk to me that make the sugar.
We've been getting it at 15 cents a pound, and it's not worthwhile.
Oh, okay.
We buy 5 tons at a time, and we sit down and figure it out. We waste 4 hours mixing stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We can go 20 cents, 21 cents, have it all mixed, and it's ready to go. Time is money. You know, I mean, you save a nickel or a dime, and you lose $1.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because, well, even up here, the 10-pound bag of sugar is like $3.89 for a 10-pound bag, the cheapest you can find it. That adds up pretty quick, too.
Well, if Greg's going to get in with you, then call up Man Lake. You can buy half of the tanker. They'll deliver it to your house or locate you some totes, empty totes. They'll drive up and fill your totes for you.
Yeah, I've got a few totes. I'll need a few more to be able to pull that one off. But it would take me and Greg both tag teaming them right now to get enough to get their attention.
Well, they'll deliver it. I mean, you know, if you're going to make money in bees, you got to take and spend your time more wisely than you spend your dollars. Believe me.
Oh, yeah, even no more than I was doing the last couple of years. I bet I wasted at least a half a day a week just mixing sugar water. And once I started the liquid, no, just pour it in and go.
Well, you know, if you're going to be a commercial beekeeper, not just a backyard beekeeper, but if you want to make a living at this, time adds up and money adds up fast. I mean, people, they think it's kind of strange. I have a sawmill. I got free labor out here, and I get free logs, and I can saw all the boxes I want, but I'm buying them by the pallet, pre-cut, because it's so much faster.
Oh, yeah.
We sit down and figure our time and everything. We can buy pallets of quick frames. You've probably seen a picture of the frames and stuff we bought. I can buy them cheaper than I can buy them individually, put them together myself. I mean, it's getting ridiculous.
Yeah, I never thought I'd think about buying a frame that was already assembled just for the expense. And I got to looking at what you did there. What was that, last chat or something like that? Yeah. Had them all brought in. I was like, well, I'd save a lot of blisters on fingers.
I mean, on that last deal, we can buy the frame basically for 67 cents, I think. And we can buy the foundation for 70. Now, you buy them enough pellets, you put that together, and then tack on your time. Now we can buy them for 80 cents, already put together, ready to drop in. So,
yeah,
it's not
no contest. Yeah, I'm with you.
What I'm trying to do is to teach you how to save money. I mean, you know.
Oh, yeah. When I was down there with you last spring, no longer, and I got to stay down there, you changed my habits quite a bit.
Well, that's a good thing, I hope.
Yeah, well, I come home, I thought I had like a couple hundred nuke boxes and frames all in them, ready to rock and roll. And the time I got back home from seeing you, I'm like, we're not ready.
Ask Dennis how it worked. He thought he had plenty.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think he was the one talking about buying a bunch of boxes and having to put them together.
Yep.
And I did the same thing. I built 200 nuke boxes.
Yeah.
And I was all proud of myself, pat myself on the back, and I turned around, I was like, oh my God, there's 1,000 frames I got to build. Oh my God.
See, there's a lot of people don't think of the little things if you want to make a living. I mean, you could plug along, you could take your knife and you could cut queen cells out. You could make a few splits here and there. But if you stop and think about it, if you bought 100 queen cells that's going to hatch out tomorrow and only paid $5 for them, that queen hatches out and you get a 90 to 95% take, you're way ahead of the game. And that's what a lot of people don't think. Well, it's like, I've got a guy that he come up here, he makes his own frames, but you can't tell him. I can make my own frames. Yeah, I can make them too. I used to. But you can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I totally understand. Well, the nuke boxes, when I found a fairly good deal on them, what the whole thing broke down to, it was going to cost me as much to buy the wood as it was these nuke boxes, and all I had to do was just staple them together.
Yeah.
No contest.
Well, if you
but I did buy a bunch of
a
them.
Now, if you
But I
get
did buy a bunch of
a
them.
ridge now, I mean, if you buy enough of them, he cut you a good deal on it. You can't, you know, he's below Man Lake. And if you get enough of them, he'll deliver them. He swings all over the states.
He's close enough to me, too. I need to know who he is.
Just pull up Antler Ridge, Todd Barnhill, and tell him you're one of my students. He knows we buy a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Last order he dropped off, he says we was his biggest buyer at that time. Now, since I've been on these chats and mentioning his name, I think he's getting way behind.
That happens in this business, doesn't it?
Well, Dennis, you ready to
All
tell
right,
us
that's all I
about
had.
that and how close you was getting ready?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Say that again, Don.
Are you ready to tell everybody you had all them boxes? You thought you had plenty of them? What happened?
I'm still working on boxes. No, you'll never have enough boxes. But I'm still building, I'm still buying.
Yep.
And hopefully I'll be there where I can sit back and watch it for a while.
I've been trying to do that myself for the last 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
I keep saying I want to slow down, but it seems like I'm going faster.
Yeah, time and life goes by faster.
Oh, yeah.
I hope I live long enough to see all these boxes in production good.
Definitely.
Okay. Over to Raina. Go ahead, Raina.
Hey, Don, just a quick question.
Okay.
When are you planning to come visit Kelly here in Houston?
I'm scheduled for the 17th, 18th. Now, they're going to have limited classes, and the classes will be one day will be at Kelly's, and one day is going to be at Julie's place at two different locations.
Okay, and you said 17th of April?
17th and 18th.
Oh, 17th, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Be sure to book early because, you know, they're selling that pre-sold, and they're not going to take, you know, tons and tons of people like they did the last presentation. There was 200 or 300 people at the last time I was there.
Right. I'll make sure I register with them. Just to remind you or let you know, I'll be there to see you on the 2nd of April.
Okay. Is that a weekend or is that?
I think it's a Friday, I believe.
Okay. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I'll be at my southern yard. And Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I work at my home yard.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Raina, don't forget to save Don some food. Last time, nobody saved Don food at the meeting.
All right. I'll make sure.
All right. If nobody else has any questions, that would cover it for tonight. Doesn't look like it. So if you guys want to stick around for the after chat, you can do that and talk amongst yourselves. So thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone. We will see you all in 2 weeks.
Okay. Thanks to everybody for showing up and putting up with us. See you in 2 weeks.